Final segment of Energy Matters, and to Washington, D.C. we go, and Jessica Unruh is our guest who spent some time today in the Oval Office of the White House. Not everybody can say that. I love it. Jessica, how you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. What a neat day for North Dakota. That is fabulous. Just for folks that are not familiar with this event, the president hosted 4 families from around the country in the Oval Office today, and the idea was let's get some families in here that are out there making a living and find out how this tax reform package would impact them. That's something no fake news outlets ever thinks to do. You know, I don't know why New York Times and Washington Post aren't doing this, but the president obviously having this conversation and maybe jolting some of these people into a little bit of common sense. And, of course, Jessica wears many hats. She is a owner of a ranch, cattle rancher. She is an environmental specialist with the Coyote Properties, the Freedom Mine in Beulah. She is also a state senator and chair of the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee in North Dakota. So a perfect person to be among that group of 4 families interacting with the president. And I understand Kellyanne Conway was there. Just tell us a little bit about the discussion.
Well, the discussion was a great one. Like you said, he invited 4 families and that he had highlighted in his speeches as he traveled across the country to talk about tax reform. So he invited the media into the room and allowed us all to just say a little piece about what tax reform meant for our families and for the states that we're from. And it was an honor to be able to share our thoughts with the president in the Oval, and then also to get the word out about how important tax reform is to us in North Dakota. So it was just a really great day.
And you had your family with you?
I did. My mom and my 2 daughters were with, and my youngest, her goal was to make sure that she gave President Trump the thumbs up. And when she did that right before we left the office, he invited her back behind the desk to take an individual picture with her with both of their thumbs up. So it was quite the experience. My kids got to sit on the floor in the Oval Office, and it was really a proud mom moment, along with being able to represent North Dakota in the Oval. So
awesome. And, this president knows about, presenting not only the story and the facts, but also that visual. And there's nothing like the president with kids. It just isn't. Any critic can think what they want to think about Donald Trump, but I see him with his grandkids, and I just say, look at that. That's unbelievable. And I love that little thumbs up a moment with your daughter as well. How old are your girls?
So my girls are almost 8 and 9 years old, so definitely old enough to understand and appreciate what we were doing, but young enough for them to really see it through a child's eyes, and it was really a great moment. Now,
here's where Jessica really knocked it out of the park for North Dakota. I'm looking at a photo and a tweet from Mark Knoller. Mark's a longtime member of the White House press corps, a CBS News reporter, and he tweeted out a picture of, I love this hat. Jason Borg gave me one from the Lignite Energy Council, Make Coal Great Again hat. These are black and white, awesome hats, and the president's holding it. How did that come about?
Well, I, of course, have some connections to the coal industry. Those are hats that we all wear proudly as coal miners. And I thought, well, what better opportunity to share our message and our support for President Trump than to give him one of these hats. So I was fortunate enough for him to be able to accept that one, and then he also signed one for me as well. So it was really a great experience to talk about tax reform and the regulatory relief that he's provided the industry.
No kidding. So when the media came in to hear the story, what was your pitch to them about the difference it'll be for your family, the ranch, the coal industry? What'd you tell them?
Well, my first point was that North Dakotans aren't looking for handouts. We're just looking for relief. We want tax relief, and we want it as soon as we can possibly get it. And that was my number one message to him. We also talked about state and local tax deductions, how important that is for everybody across the country to have to pay their fair share. I'm a big believer in a level playing field, and that's one way that we can do that with tax reform. A couple of other pieces I talked about were the lowering the corporate tax rate from 35% to 20%, and how that will just create more jobs for not only North Dakotans, but for everybody across the country. And then we talked a little bit about the production tax credit for renewable wind energy. That's something that there was a provision included in the House bill that was passed. There was nothing in the Senate bill. I'd like to see them work that out in conference. There are some details there that I think can make a really big difference for our electric markets in North Dakota.
That is great. Did the president engage on any of those? Did he want to know more? Obviously, with the media, the main thing is that they get that message. But any discussion points with the president where he picked up on any of those things?
He was just really supportive of the industry, happy to see the results and the increased coal production across the United States with the regulatory reform that's already happening. He understands, too, that lowering that corporate tax rate will only allow for us to produce more domestic energy here in the United States. And he focused on that, focused on us being able to export our coal to other countries as well. So, yes, he definitely picked up on some of those pieces. I was happy to be able to have his ear for just a second to try and push North Dakota's agenda forward.
That is really cool. I mean, it's just an adrenaline moment, right? I mean, there's the president of the United States. There's your kids in the Oval Office. What was going through your mind?
It was very, very surreal. I got to bring my mother with as well, and we talked about it just a little bit before she rushed my children off to the airport to get them back home so they could go to school tomorrow. But just the opportunity to be able to be in that office to talk tax policy. I'm a huge tax geek, so that in and of itself, it's just truly amazing. I get speechless when I start to think about how grateful I am for the experience.
What do you think, just to the critics who say this is nothing but a tax cut for the rich, they're just more for fat cats, not going to help anybody? Well, what do you want the critics to know about the difference this plan's going to make?
The critics will always say their piece. It doesn't matter which side you're on, any kind of policy discussion. You're always going to have somebody who's not liking what's happening. But my perspective is anytime you can lower any of the tax rates, it frees up dollars for folks to spend and increase our economic activity here in America. So I don't see the perspective that cutting taxes, no matter if it's lowering that corporate tax rate to create more jobs, or if it's at the individual level, reducing those brackets, lowering some of those rates, and getting rid of some of the special carve-outs for special interest groups too. That'll only help make our economy better.
Great point. A lot of swamp activity there with cutouts for here, cutouts for there. Level the playing field and give everybody relief. I love it. Thanks, Jessica. Thanks for representing North Dakota well today. Good job.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me on. Happy to share.
Great story.